What's good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Shadicstick dropping some hot frogga on this mic. Today we're going to be talking about Team Sonic Racing. I've been wanting to make a video on this for a while. I was originally going to do a Sonic Prime video and then a Sonic Riders video, but I decided to knock the Team Sonic Racing video out of the way, so let's just talk about it. Team Sonic Racing, when it originally came out, had become one of my favorite kart racers just at the time. And while I do look back and I did say a lot of things that I don't think are true now, I still think the game is just really all around a solid, well put together game, and I think it's worth checking out if you can find it on sale. I mean, usually it's like $20 or something like that, so it's usually relatively cheap. So if you can find it on sale, get the game. But the game really attracted me for a myriad of reasons, and one of the biggest reasons was because it really focused the attention away from being first. You didn't necessarily have to be first in a race to win. It was more about the team together doing well in the race so that they as a whole can do well and get first. And on top of that, it made you focus a lot more on where your enemies were placed so that you could take them out of those positions and move yourself into those positions or make other people get into those positions so that your team as a whole could beat out another team, or so that another team was just not swamping everybody. It's a really cool concept, and on paper it works, and then even in the game it works. And I think they executed it well in that regard. They got it to work, and it was fun to play. And it makes playing with friends even more fun. On top of that, there's a lot of customization in comparison to a lot of other kart racers. So your loadout feels unique in comparison to playing, say for instance, Mario Kart, where a lot of the loadouts just feel really similar or they feel the same, and it's just really more of an aesthetic choice. Whereas here, every kart option makes a difference. And on top of them all making a difference, you can change the color or the look of them. And I really do enjoy that. On top of that, it has the typical Sonic stuff, great music, nice visuals. And overall, this game, like I said before, it's just a fun time. And I think you should check it out. But the game has one glaring issue, and that it's dead. There's no one online, no one talking about the game in 2021, a year or two after it's released. And despite the game doing decently well, no one talks about it online. But why is that? What's good, everybody out there on YouTube? This is your man Shadicstick dropping some hot frogga on this mic. And today, we're going to talk about the reason why Team Sonic Racing failed. So, why did this game die? Well, let's start with the online. The online in this game was not really well thought out, and I think that's a really important and in a multiplayer racing game, period. Not just kart races, but multiplayer racing games, period. While the connectivity was better than something like Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed, that's a really low bar to set. That's not something that I feel like was really hard to beat. But on top of the connectivity not being, the greatest thing on the planet, there are no parties in the game, which is kind of ridiculous considering that this is a game where you would want to play with your friends because it's focused around the idea of team racing, not solo racing. And it makes it harder to enjoy the game when you can't play with friends in a game that's built around playing with teams and playing with people you know. Oh wait, the game does have parties, but only in the PlayStation 4 version, which makes no sense at all. This should have been something that was easy to implement across all versions, but the PlayStation version is the only one that has it. And it hasn't been, fixed to this day. On top of that, there's no crossplay, which this game would have benefited heavily from. I think if your game was released past 2017, that it should have crossplay. There's just no reason in the modern day and age for a game to not play across different versions. You should be giving your players the options they want to play the game how they want. And on top of that, increasing your overall online player base, because that's how you keep these multiplayer games alive and make more money, and that's how you keep getting recurring sales, because people know that they can play with other people. But when you don't have the ability to play with friends in a team-based racing game whose whole selling point is that you and friends can take on racing in a different way, and you don't necessarily have to be first to do well, I don't know. I just think that's kind of asinine that there's no crossplay, no parties, just no way to make sure you're playing with friends. And then on top of that, there's been no updates to the online to fix these issues, and there's no real ranking system online. And while you may say it's a racing game or it's this, that, and the other, it's a car racer, it doesn't need a ranking system, I think at least something basic would help players really gauge their skill and have fun or have a reason to keep playing and keep getting better at the game. I mean, even Mario Kart has this. Why doesn't Team Sonic Racing? I don't know. It just seems like it's something easy to put in the game, but it's just not there. And I get it. It's a budget game. But at the same time, this has been implemented in games at cheaper price points. So there's no real excuse. But let's move from online and talk about the game's lack of identity. Because it just really feels like, while the game is a Sonic racing game, it just feels like there's nothing that differentiates it from anything else in the kart racer genre outside of that little, team racing mechanic, which is cool, but I feel like many people hopping into this game are playing on their own or playing by themselves. And because of that, solo play winds up becoming extremely bare bones because they don't really rebalance the game around playing by yourself or playing without a team. And this is exacerbated by the fact that there's a lack of transformation and a lack of stage transitions and stuff that was in the previous entry Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transform. And on top of lacking that transformation concept, the roster is a lot smaller than it was in Sonic Racing Transform. And many people may say, looking from the outside in, who aren't necessarily Sonic fans but are Sega fans, and they're going to be like, oh no, that's just because they cut all the Sega characters, and that's not it. This game has a small roster by the standard of other Sonic racing games. It has 15 characters, which is cool, but it leaves out a lot of the mainstay characters from the series. And it does this odd thing of really picking certain characters and teaming up with certain characters that they've never talked to or never teamed with before. It just kind of makes for an awkward time when you're a Sonic fan looking at, say for instance, the Team Soul or whatever it is, and it's Blaze, Silver, which, is a perfectly fine combination, and then you see Vector, who is a part of Team Chaotix. Why is Vector here without, SPL and Charmy, which I feel like would have been great playable characters to add to the game. So on top of completely cutting off their older player base, they've also somewhat alienated their, new player base by not having a lot of the mainstay or staple characters from the Sonic franchise in there. So this game just feels like it's Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Shadow, and Cast. And that's really it. But let's talk about my final point, and that's the lack of support that this game has. Sega just didn't update this game to fix the issues that I've talked about before. I just feel like they've really missed out, and they didn't capitalize on the one thing that's really driving multiplayer games at this moment, and that's live services. As much as I hate live services, I think they can do good for certain games. I think one of the biggest examples of that is how Nintendo has been treating a lot of their games. Excluding Smash, let me say that. If you look at games like Splatoon 2 and ARMS, those games really didn't have paid content. Splatoon had paid content, but that was single player DLC, and anything that came to its online service was free. And while I know not every company can afford to do that, Nintendo did the same thing with ARMS. And again, while not every company can afford to do that, a lot of companies will do things like have free content alongside paid content to please both player bases. Their player base that's willing to pay for new content and their player base that isn't willing to pay for new content or just merely can't. And I feel with the Sonic franchise, this would have been the smartest move. And it isn't like Sega hasn't tackled, live services and online multiplayer games with the Sonic franchise before. They're currently doing it with the Sonic mobile games. More specifically, Sonic Forces Speed Battle. And again, that's a mobile game. It gets a lot of money through microtransactions, overspending, etc., etc. But I feel like the rate at which we get content for a game like that should have been matched in Team Sonic Racing, at least for the first year to a year and a half. But once that game dropped, we got nothing from Sega. No new characters, no new stages, not even advertising. It feels like once the game released, they stopped advertising for it, which is completely insane. So in conclusion, I don't hate TSR. I don't want that message to be taken from this video because I actually really like the game. It's just looking back, this game really dropped the ball. There was a lot of potential this budget game had. I mean, it could have been a live service. We could have got a lot of content from this game, and they could have done a lot to make this game enjoyable for not only just single players, but groups of people and made it to where this game had a long, healthy life. It could have easily been one of the most fun Sonic games, period, had they done that. But at the end of the day, it wound up being a decent budget racer with not a lot of identity, outside of them slapping the Sonic moniker on top of the, cakes. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about this in that comment section down below? Do you agree with a lot of the stuff I said? Do you disagree with it? I just feel like Team Sonic Racing could have been a lot better in a lot of different ways. And I don't think it exactly needed to copy Transformed, to the T. They could have easily dropped the transformation stuff and still had a great game with a lot of identity had they really expanded on the things that they had put there and made it accessible to people to play online with their friends. On top of implementing things like, ranked, adding new characters and adding new tracks just throughout its lifetime. But they didn't. And at the end of the day, all we got was just a decent game. But hey, this has been your man Shadicstick. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Share this video out with your friends. Look out for a Sonic Riders video and a Sonic Prime video sometime soon, alongside a Splatoon 3 video. But hey, remember to follow your boy on Twitter at MobShadic100. Remember, Hot Faraga turns to Cold Blizzaga. Chill out with some of my other videos. Peace. Kiss, kiss.
Don't you know we really have